It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Wednesday, midweek edition of the show. Hopefully you have yourself a great day. And of course, thank you so much for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a part of your work day, along with everybody out there also listening on the RealAg Radio podcast. Today on the show, we are going to dig into the markets like we do every Wednesday. We'll be talking today to Errol Anderson of ProMarket Wire. He's a trader at heart. This is 2 weeks in a row. We're talking to people that are really focused on the trading side, really with a lot of experience in that area. I want to get a sense from Errol on how he would describe this market. Are we really kind of in that sort of grinding lower? Is there something that could reverse this? And I know he also has thoughts on inflation and deflation. Errol's been writing a lot lately about how he thinks the Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve, central banks in general, have this all wrong. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to hear from Dave Gallant. He is with the Canadian Canola Growers Association, talking about their cash advance program. And we'll also hear today from Keith Currie. He is the president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. They have a new program launching for CFA members that have really kind of a bit of a solution to rural broadband. They have a program going with Starlink. So we'll talk about that. Also, he was just in South Africa. Find out what he was doing there. Holidays, work, what was it? I've never been to South Africa. Would love to go sometime. It's supposed to be just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. So I would love to do that. If you have any feedback on today's show, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call us on the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Or, of course, find us across all the different social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, as well as TikTok. Bit of an update on our poll. We talked about this yesterday. Do you care if Bunge and Viterra merge? Well, what's the update here? We've got, oh boy. So 51% so far saying yes, they care, and I'm opposed to the merger. So this is where your feedback, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, would be really, really interesting. I want to hear why you're opposed to the merger. We read some feedback yesterday from Brian, who basically said there isn't a lot of overlap here because Bunge doesn't have a lot of, doesn't have elevator origination in Western Canada. So why are you against it? Let me know. Send me your thoughts. Like I said, my email is shaney@realagriculture.com. When we come back, let's get to talking markets with Errol Anderson of ProMarket Wire right after this.
This year might bankrupt us. If I lose the farm, I'm letting down generations of my family. Why am I the only one who can't handle it? Maybe the farm would be better off without me. Hello?
Hey, I was just thinking about you and thought I'd say hi. I know it's been a hard season, and I wanted to see how you're holding up.
We might feel alone, but we're all in this together. Visit domore.ag for mental health supports tailored for the agriculture community.
How's your seed quality? What should you treat with? What about herbicide carryover and environmental concerns? Spring is here, and you've got a lot of things to think about in regards to your pulse crop. The Pulse School on Real Agriculture has information and advice for all these questions and more to help you navigate this season. Brought to you by BASF. Pulse School episodes are available at pulseschool.com, realagriculture.com, or as a podcast on your favorite streaming service. Download the latest episode today.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Shaun Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on Sirius XM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
Are you looking to simplify your sulfur solution on your farm? Get Biosol Premium Plus from GFL Ag. The unique combination of compost and elemental sulfur that provides a cost-efficient, logistically friendly, agronomically sound, long-term and environmentally friendly sulfur solution for the farm. Learn more about it by going to gflagra.com. That's gflagri.com. Let's talk markets. Today we are joined by Errol Anderson. He is with ProMarket Wire, based out of Calgary, Alberta. Errol, great to chat with you.
Hey, Shaun, thanks for having me on.
Okay, so Errol, if you had to describe the current commodity market to somebody that doesn't follow it every day, maybe it's one of your neighbors in Calgary, how would you describe this right now?
Well, it's a key economic indicator, and we have to pay attention to the commodity market because it's real. It's buyers and sellers of physical product. The lead market in the commodity world is crude oil. And where crude goes, does go the rest of the commodities. And the next leading indicator that we watch very carefully is copper, because it's a major manufacturing tool and metal. And again, it is a driver of economic strength or weakness. Now, what we're having right now, Shaun, is that we're having a commodity pullback generally, and this is global. This isn't just in the United States and Canada. This is a global pullback, and where we're seeing it coming from is really the slowdown in China. And today, for instance, we just had renewed information from China on their manufacturing, and it was a big miss. So China, I believe, is actually going into some form of a recession. And China, basically purchases over 50% of global commodities. So we have to really respect that, and that's why we're seeing a downturn currently.
Well, you say pullback. I'm glad you didn't use the word meltdown, because that would make me feel, maybe give me a little feel worse about all this.
The grain world is really taking it hard right now.
Yeah.
And certainly, we're seeing soybeans and corn. The wheat market has been struggling for some time right now. Canola, of course, is taken quite a major hit. But with that said, when markets do a dive like this, it's largely initiated by panic selling and forced margin call selling. And so you get a situation where the markets get oversold. So once the emotion in the market starts to subside, and really what that emotion is fear and panic, once it starts to subside, then the markets will tend to recover. And, I think we're in a bit of a heat of the fire right now on these grains. Once we get through it, we'll see a bounce. But are we in a lower trading window? I think we are. Overall, as we head into the fall market, we have to respect the direction of this commodity world. And I think it's going to pressure. I think there's more weakness in crude oil, in diesel fuel prices. I think interest rates may actually have to start to come down, even though central bankers deny it right now. But I think there's a pathway here where the economic engine is starting to slow down. There is some concern, and we're going to have to start fueling up this market. I'm not a real believer of inflation right now. I think we're really in a deflationary pathway right now. But again, the marketplace doesn't believe it. But we've seen that before. Once the market decides that, we are starting to weaken, we will see a little bit of realization that we've got a new world and a new price level on some of these commodity markets.
So, Errol, I want to stay in this zone right now with you, because I've seen a lot of you. I've been following you a lot on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I've seen you comment a lot about what's going to happen next with interest rates, which I think is, and I mean this as a compliment, a bit of a contrarian view from what we're hearing from a lot of people. So it's very fascinating to me. Is the drop in? So just 1 second. Is the drop in commodity prices, is that the leading indicator? And have we been too focused on, unemployment levels haven't gone up, so therefore we have to keep on raising rates? Talk about that.
Well, I think central bankers really don't have the eye on the ball right now, and they're totally missing the commodity world. Yes, we have to really watch the U.S. debt ceiling and the progress on that. And again, that's a bit of a problem now. There's certainly, bulls out there that think that the stock market will continue to go up, and possibly it will. But, when we see the commodity market falter like this, to me, it's a direct warning to the equity world, and it's a direct warning to central bankers that it's going to shake them up. And I guess the indicators that the central banks use and sort of mainstream media are not totally the ones that they should be following. And again, I really respect crude oil. And I think that is a main indicator here. I really respect the industrial metals. I think that's really a key indicator. And, you have to respect the fact that, things like the commercial real estate market, which is under pressure right now, and I think it will continue to be under pressure. And I think if you're in the market to buy a skyscraper, just wait about 6 months because it's going to get cheaper. These are issues that central bankers have to notice, and they will unfortunately react by looking in the rear view mirror. They're not forward thinking. They're always looking behind them. And again, I realize these are fairly hard comments, but that's my opinion. And I think they're going to get shocked at what they see in the rearview mirror, and they're going to panic react probably by the fall market.
Well, we got crude. You want to use crude oil as an indicator. We got WTI in the last month down 9.5%, 3 months down 9.8%. But you look at the last 52 weeks, the last year, we're down $45 or 40%. That's a substantial drop.
Well, it is, and the thing is, can crude oil go lower? Absolutely. It was only about 2-3 years ago when crude oil actually fell to minus 38. Now, I realize that's an aberration, but nonetheless, can crude oil work its way below $60 a barrel? Can it go down to $50 a barrel? Why not? Sure can. Can it go to 100, 150? Well, the only way we can do that is if the economy is truly recovering and we've got fresh air coming into these markets. But right now, we don't have that fresh air. We've got a bit of a debt house cleaning that's going to come about. We've got a lot of corporate mergers that are going to occur here over the next year and a half. Once that house cleaning is over and we get the renewed money, fresh money that'll start the green buds of the economy again, really the pathway right now is we have to get the glut out of this market. And the commodity world is really telling the equity world, hey, look up here. We've got some problems here. We've got to consolidate. And we're going to see some lower prices as we head into the next 6 to 12 months. Okay,
well, we've clearly moved on from, these pricing levels are the new normal. How do farmers, Errol, you've been trading for 30 plus years. How do farmers, what do they do now? Like, is there ways are you in protection mode? Just kind of set the stage for us on how the audience needs to be thinking when it comes to the 23 crop that they're trying to market.
Well, one thing ahead of us is weather. So, commodity markets get choppy, particularly the grains, through the weather season. Once, that means that we will see rebounds. But my view on, from a producer point of view, is that when you do see a recovery, view it as a pricing opportunity, because the recovery in these markets, in my belief, will not hold. Nonetheless, we get into July, we get some dryness here, corn prices start to move back up. And, there's going to be some opportunities, but will they go back to where they were? No, I think these are lower highs. So stay connected. Look at those charts. Look at where the resistance lines are. If you need some help, get an analyst to just give you an idea of where the resistance is, because the traders will respect these lines of resistance and support. And if it starts to bounce up on the corn and it hits a resistance line, it'll respect it and it'll start to peel off again, but it'll produce an opportunity for the grower to make some cash sales.
Well, as a hobby, technical analyst of the market. I love looking at charts and drawing lines and looking at some of those analytics. We've been talking about the fundamentals here a little bit so far. What are the charts telling you as you look at them? Are they saying the same thing as the fundamentals right now?
Well, they are. An exception in the commodity world has been the cattle market. The cattle market has been straight up, and part of that is because of certainly a lower cattle supply, but also because of corn prices coming down. So, cattle market has just been an absolute standout right now. And again, we view this market as also a real opportunity for the cattle feeder because it's up so strong. But as far as the grain world or currencies, again, we have to keep an eye on those technicals because the fund traders out there have a major say. The funds, they can create major short positions, major long positions, and it'll swing these markets. So, we're in the grains. We're in an overall lower trading range. The crude oil market, I believe, is going to go lower over time, albeit choppy. Diesel fuel prices are going to weaken as well, which is somewhat good news. Interest rates, I think, will turn down once we get into the fall market. And the cattle market right now, I think it's a dandy pricing opportunity for the cattle feeder. These are great profits, and take advantage of them.
Well, Errol, we really appreciate you joining us here today. Great perspectives. I wish it was a little bit more bullish news, but we need to create awareness about what's in front of us here and some of the challenges. Like 2 years, the last 2 years, it's been sort of a buy and hold strategy, so to say. Put it in the bin and mark it when you feel like it because we're just going higher. We're not in that right now, and so we got to be aware of what's in front of us.
Absolutely. And, it's a changing world. We've gone through a bull market right now, and last couple of years, and it's maybe allowed the producer to put their guard down somewhat on their marketing, but nothing sharpens your marketing again is to see some profitability strains out there, which, we're going to see opportunities again. Just sharpen those marketing skills, and we'll get through the next few months.
Errol, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, the trend that we've been picking up here the past few weeks when we're talking to different market analysts, I don't think it's a coincidence. I guess the common thread in terms of a recommendation on your marketing, sell the rallies. That if the market does move higher over a day, a period of days, we get a bit of a bounce. You're taking some risk off the table by doing some marketing. That seems to be the common thread at this point. I think it's very interesting what Errol's saying about the overall economic complex. While we have central banks very focused on unemployment, and there's some that believe until unemployment goes higher, they have to keep raising rates. But if you look at what's happening like with crude, as Errol was talking about, and copper, we talked about that last week on the show in the news segment. Those are indicators too. And so can we just ignore all of that stuff and just focus, say, on what the monthly CPI data is and only focus in on what unemployment says? I'm not so sure. Errol brings up some very, very good points about this. Will we start to see central banks lowering rates in the back half of the year? Well, time will tell. There's still several people. I remember last week I was talking to an economist who basically said that he believes the Fed still has to raise one more time. So there is a wide, vast swath of opinion when it comes to what's happening next. And Errol mentioned the commercial real estate market in the U.S. That's a mess, disaster. So yeah, fun times to be an economist trying to break all this down. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear about the cash advance program from the CCGA right after this.
Did you know that Pioneer now has a full lineup of Enlist E3 soybeans? Take a look at Pioneer brand Enlist E3 soybeans for the highest yield potential and for the best agronomic package and herbicide trait options. From the lab to the field, Pioneer brand Enlist E3 soybeans are the best in beans, period. Ask your local Pioneer representative about Enlist E3 beans.
As you head out into the field this season, the Corn School's got you covered. Everything from tillage discussions, weed control info, field trial results, yield strategies, and more. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com has the information and advice you need to help you succeed. Brought to you by Pride Seeds and BASF. Corn School episodes are available at cornschool.com, from RealAgriculture.com, or as a podcast from your favorite streaming service. Download the latest episode today.
Want to get the best out of your soybean crops? Whether you've been growing them for a generation or are just starting into soybeans, find what you need to know at soybeanschool.com. You'll see videos on growing tips, pest control, and much more from specialists across the region, all in one place. Easy for you to access from your desktop, tablet, or mobile phone. Maximize your yields by staying up to date with the Soybean School, presented by BASF, Pride Seeds, and Syngenta Canada.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio. It's now time for a product spotlight with the Canadian Canola Growers Association. We're joined right now by the CCGA's Director of Finance and Operations. It is Dave Gallant. Dave, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Shaun.
Okay, Dave, we're going to talk about the Cash Advance program here today. And for anyone who is unfamiliar with the Cash Advance program from CCGA, can you give us a brief overview of what it is and how it works for farmers?
Certainly. So the Cash Advance program gives farmers access to cash flow for their inventory prior to sale. One of the fundamental values of the program for farmers is that the first $350,000 this year are interest-free. There's an overall limit of $1 million, and the remaining $650,000 at CCGA farmers get at prime minus 0.75%. There's no fee. We give advances on over 50 different commodities, and the program is really designed around farming. Farmers don't make monthly payments. Farmers don't have lump sum payments to make. They pay as they sell their products. So they only pay when they have cash flow from their product sales.
It's a bit of a big change for this year. Why would a farmer want to take out a cash advance? Like who's the target market here? And are there cost savings or benefits when it comes to the marketing plan?
I think any farmer who uses any kind of borrowing on their operation can take advantage of the Cash Advance program. From a savings point of view, with the first $350,000 being interest-free, a farmer who borrows, say, $500,000 under the program is going to save about $25,000 compared to borrowing that same $500,000 from their local bank or credit union. So there's a substantial savings available to farmers on the borrowing costs. And from a marketing perspective, because the program gives farmers access to cash for their inventory, whether it's livestock or grain, they don't have to sell in the fall or when prices are low necessarily just to generate cash to pay their bills. They can market their products throughout the winter, next spring, even next summer to maximize the sales value and therefore maximize their bottom line.
Yeah, we got seed going in the ground. We got calves dropping in the springtime here. Is this a good time for producers to apply for the program?
It's definitely a good time. And in fact, any time of the year is a good time. Right now, you are right. We are getting farmers who are applying for what they're planning to seed. We've got our livestock producers applying for the calves that are just being born. But a lot of our farmers will come to us in May, June, and July, or end of May, June, and July once they've finished seeding, and they'll apply based on what they've actually seeded. And of course, about 45% of our customers will come back in the fall based on what they've actually harvested and what's in the bin in terms of quantity and quality, and they can apply for stored grain. But essentially, farmers can apply 365 days a year.
So, Dave, from an application standpoint, how long does it take to apply? And what I'm more, I guess, wondering there is how long from the application to when they actually get the funds?
So once an application is completed, it takes about 3 to 5 days for funds to be deposited in a farmer's bank account. If you're a brand new customer, just call us at 1-866-745-2256. Our dedicated contact center staff will actually complete the application on the farmer's behalf. And in about 20 minutes, they'll have it in their in-basket and with a detailed list of what's required to be signed and any additional forms. Once we get that completed package back, money is issued, again, within 3 to 5 business days. If they're existing customers, they can go on our secure site anytime, complete the application themselves, and submit it online.
Nice. I like the some hand-holding there to help people along. I hate filling out forms, so it sounds like you thought about me when you're making this. Are there other things you've done to make applying easy for farmers?
Well, I mean, we've got a great team on our end helping farmers get their applications in. So we've been doing this for about 40 years now. We've got a dedicated contact center team. That is their job, to answer farmer questions about the application process and to help farmers complete their applications. We do it day in, day out. We know the answers to all the questions. But we don't just stop there in terms of helping farmers get the money. We also help farmers throughout the year by making sure they understand the rules, how to make their payments, and what the deadlines are, so that we can ensure they succeed in getting their advance not only issued, but completed, so they can take advantage of the program in the next year. And that's why we have a customer satisfaction rating of over 95%.
Great stuff. Hey, Dave, if somebody wants more information on the cash advance program, where do they go?
Well, you can go to ccga.ca, or you can call us at 1-866-745-2256.
Great stuff. Dave, thanks a lot for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
When we come back on RealAg Radio, we're going to hear from Keith Currie, who's the president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. We're talking about rural broadband and a new program that CFA has in place to help you deal with some of those challenges. You're listening to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
Whether you're seeding, harvesting, or anything in between, the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com has you covered. Timely agronomic information from industry experts available online anytime. Give your wheat crop a good start and a great finish with the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com. Brought to you by C&M Seeds, Syngenta Canada, and the Alberta Wheat and Barley Commission.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. This segment's brought to you by Granubor from US Borax. Ask for it by name. Go to borax.com. We're joined right now by the president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. It is Ontario farmer Keith Currie. Keith, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Shaun. I'm actually at home today, which is a nice change given the busyness of the past couple of weeks. So, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about rural broadband here, but first let's start with what you've been up to the past few weeks. You were in South Africa. What the heck were you doing there?
Well, the World Farm Organization had its annual General Assembly in Sun City, South Africa. So as a member of WFO, we certainly were there to partake in the General Assembly. And it's a great opportunity to meet with our counterparts around the world to talk about different issues and how they're tackling them.
So, Keith, how does that work back to Canada? Like, what kind of issues are you talking about? Is this stuff at 500,000 feet and it's good in theory, but it's like, is it actually connecting to the farm back home here?
Well, it is in the long term, in the big picture. I mean, for the day-to-day activities we do, it's hard to put that connection there. But for example, the real focus on this year's conference was around the whole regenerative / sustainable agriculture and what that means to individual countries and how they're implementing it. And of course, everybody defines sustainability different, but, in concept, it's the same thing. And where it's important for farmers here in Canada and around the world is that sustainability aspect, more specifically through climate change initiatives and food security initiatives, is creeping into the WTO and into trade talks. And so how we can, sort of gather our thoughts on how we move that forward, it will become important down the road to Canadian farmers.
And this fall, is this the same organizations having their meeting in PEI coming up this fall?
No, this fall it's a different organization. This is the meeting in PEI this fall is the North American European Union group, which Copa Cogeco runs it. It is like a like a subsidiary, I'll say, for lack of a better term, of the WFO. Most of the groups there are members of WFO as well, but this is, I'll say, more of a Western world farming aspect.
Okay. And your predecessor, Mary Robinson, who sat in this president seat before you, she's now vice president of which org?
Of WFO, the World Farmers Organization. Yeah. So she was elected last week in Sun City, and we're very happy to have her there.
Yeah, very, very big congratulations to Mary on that. Okay, Keith, I want to talk about rural broadband. This is something, back when you were on the board of the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, I can remember you and I talking about rural broadband at a Canada's Outdoor Farm Show. We were in the Pride Seeds booth, if I remember right. And we were doing a broadcast of the show, and I know rural broadband is something you're pretty passionate about. Have we made progress? Is it getting better?
I think we are getting better, but I still believe that we have a long, long way to go. When I look at Ontario and some of the initiatives that have been implemented here and are ongoing, that expansion is happening. Many of us would like to see it happen faster. There's a significant program in the western part of the province, western half of the province, where I'm located, that is starting to get some fiber optic cable in the ground. That's not to my place yet, but I'm looking forward to that happening. And I think other provinces are doing the same. Certainly the implementation of 5G networks, expansion of 5G networks across the country, and what the federal government had in their budget over a year ago around new abilities for telecoms to apply, but having to use it quickly was a real incentive. The spectrum out there was being held on to and not used. Now, if you get it, you have to use it within a certain time frame. So that hopefully will get 5G and cell service out there quicker. And, with things like our newly introduced member benefit program of Starlink, there's some opportunities for rural connectivity to expand even further. So I think we're getting there. We just still have a long way to go.
Now, let's talk about that member benefit program you have going with Starlink. What is this program?
So many of our provincial general farm organizations have various member benefits with organizations. I'll speak from an OFA perspective because that's my history. So we had member benefit programs with, Mark's Work Warehouse and General Motors and Chrysler. We are a founding member of Coopers, so there's some medical and dental type programs, and there's other TV Mart, which your listeners will be familiar with, the old TSE stores. So groups like that we have member benefits with. And CFA has never done that, partly because we don't also want to step on the toes of our members. But Starlink is unique because it's something that can apply across the board, across the country to all our members. And it speaks to a need out there. That rural connectivity aspect that we're lacking. And, they approached us about being a member and, we looked into it and they're willing to kick some money back to the organization for every member of ours that they have subscribed to their service. So I think it was a win-win for us. It gets notification that this service is available to our members in rural Canada, and it also helps the organization out.
And what do you have to do to qualify? Because Starlink is only in a certain band, right?
Yeah, well, that'll be up to the individuals who want to look into it. And we have links on our website. They do have a deal on now on the hardware until I believe it's July 23rd. I think that's the date where there's a considerable discount on the hardware because you will have to have your radio. You have to purchase your radio from them. But it'll be up to the individuals to decide what level of programming that they want to subscribe to. And it's much like subscribing to, a cell company or a satellite dish company. There's different levels of partnership with them that you as an individual can use. So this will be no different than that. So it'll be up to the individuals to contact them. And that information is all on our website as well, on how to do that.
Yeah. Well, I know our editor at RealAgriculture.com, Lindsay Smith, she recently, we've had a ton of issues with her internet. Even though she's like farming inside the city limits of Ottawa, she has terrible internet, which is really hard in this job. Now, she just put Starlink in, and it is like a massive improvement. So I think that's something that because we talk about, who's going to do the cost of fiber out to a farm and, all this kind of stuff. This kind of skips some of that infrastructure requirement.
Well, it does. And certainly when you look at fiber optic cable going in, if you're in a fairly dense area of agriculture, and I'm thinking about, southwestern Ontario, for example, there's more opportunities to lay that cable and get more people connected. Certainly there's not going to be a last mile through that program. But when you get into the vast areas like the prairies, for example, or northern Ontario, anywhere northern in our country, the realistic opportunity for fiber optic really just isn't there. So something like Starlink provides that, terrific opportunity at a reasonable cost. And that's really what's important as well. It's got to be affordable.
Yeah. I think it was Australia. I saw a really cool picture or video. It's going back a month or so where an Australian farmer had hooked Starlink to his tractor to power all the precision equipment inside the unit. That's pretty cool. That's being innovative.
Yeah, and that's one of the advantages that Starlink has is that there is I'm not familiar with this specific device myself, but it's like a radio device you take with you in your machinery if you want to out in the field, and it will connect to you. It'll connect you through your service as well. So those opportunities are terrific given where our technology is going today, our mechanical technology, and what we're using in the field now. So I think there's some tremendous opportunities for our farmers and ranchers across the country to take advantage of this.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, we know one thing. We know that our requirement of broadband capacity is not going down. If anything, It's double. There's probably some sort of law that, we're going to need actually doubling of capacity within a given period of time. This only, as agriculture continues to adopt technology and new things become available, the amount of broadband that we need, not just in our combines and our tractors, but also in our farm offices, it's just going to go up. There's no way about it.
Well, our outside in the field necessities are there, as are even within our buildings. Whether you're in a greenhouse or a livestock operation and have automation, and part of the reason why we're moving more and more into automation is our lack of labor and our labor issues. So this opportunity to increase our technology to ease those labor issues, I can see this exploding in the next few years. So it's terrific.
How do people sign up? Go to your website?
Go to the website, get the links there, and then take it from there. And you make whatever deal you need to make with Starlink for whatever package fits your needs the best.
Cool stuff. So we'll finish up here with South Africa. What was your favorite thing about South Africa?
Well, it wasn't the travel, I can tell you that, because it's a 2-day venture to get there. But certainly, having a better understanding of what the other side of the world literally looks like from a farming perspective is quite interesting. And then, for all the things that we like to complain about back here in Canada, we've got it pretty good here, and what we have available to us, and the natural capital assets that we have to work with in this country, and the people and the farmers and ranchers that are out there that we get to interact with on a daily basis, it's really terrific. And when you go to a country like South Africa, they're still in many aspects a developing country. There are some very large farm operations as you get farther south in the country, down even towards the Cape Town area, and where they are farming 1,200 hectares using all the same technology that we do. But by and large, it's small farms, and when I say small farms, I'm talking 5 or 10 acres, and predominantly female ran. The women are the farmers in South Africa by and large. And it's certainly a different way of life, and labor is a struggle for them down there as well. And when I talk to some of the farmers down there about some of the labor requirements, and I ask them what they're paying their farmers, their workers, I mean they're paying $1 to $2 a day for employment, and they still can't get it, and that's down there is a pretty good wage. So they're struggling with the ability to the capacity to produce it to their potential. And but it's for different means. But it's great interacting with people to get a better appreciation of what we have here for sure.
Very fascinating. Hey, Keith, thanks so much for joining us. Really, really do appreciate it. And we'll chat with you again soon, okay?
Thanks a lot, Shaun. Great being there.
That is the president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. It is Mr. Keith Currie. Make sure you check out that Starlink offer that they have. That's pretty cool stuff. That's good. I have a little bit of experience with Starlink and been very happy with it as well. So it's those LEOs, those low Earth orbit satellites. Definitely some technology that's helping rural Canada for sure. When we come back on Real Ag Radio, we'll get to the top ag news stories of the day right after this. I get to spend every day talking to farmers in the ag industry through RealAgriculture.com and Real Ag Radio. But nothing is more fun than speaking to an audience live and in person. If you're planning an ag event, book a Real Agriculture speaker to make it a successful and memorable experience. Email shaney@realagriculture.com and you can book myself or any other Real Ag personality to speak at your event. Bring your audience all the fun, insight, and energy of Real Agriculture.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
I can remember a couple of years ago, we had done a kind of a thing on Twitter where we asked people to tell us their speed of their internet, and we kind of compared that to some urban centers, and the difference was staggering. Of course, like technologies like Starlink have kind of evened the playing field, so to speak. So it's interesting what Keith Currie had to say there about, like I said, this issue is not going away. It's not like all of a sudden in 3 years, farmers aren't going to need rural broadband, right? And you know what's an issue, and we actually have a term for it, rural broadband? Like how often do we talk about urban broadband? We don't. It's broadband, right? So the fact that we say rural broadband tells you that it actually is an issue that people do recognize, and it's something that Canada and the U.S. needs to be worked on. But I don't think that Starlink is available in all areas, right? It's very close to the 49th parallel, I believe, still. So it's not solving a problem for everybody out there. But people that have used it, I've heard very, very good things. It's now time for the top ag news stories today, which is brought to you by the 2023 BIF Research Symposium and Convention that will be held in Calgary, Alberta, July 3rd through the 6th, and that's during Stampede. So have fun. That's a good time to go to Calgary. It's going to feature educational programming and networking opportunities with leaders within the industry. The technical breakout sessions will focus on a range of beef production and genetic improvement topics. To see a schedule and registration information, visit beefimprovement.org/symposium. That's beefimprovement.org/symposium. Okay, top ag news stories of the day. First up, agriculture among priorities in the new category-based immigration selection process. So, workers with agriculture experience will receive priority as a part of a new category-based selection process for Canada's flagship economic immigration system. Sean Fraser, Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, on Wednesday announced the launch of a category-based selection and priority categories for the express entry system in 2023. Now, in a story at RealAgriculture.com, it says, as part of the program, invitations can be sent to prospective permanent residents with specific skills, training, or language ability in the following areas. So, of course, number one, they have a strong French language proficiency. 2, work experience in the following fields: healthcare, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Also, trades such as carpenters, plumbers, and contractors. Transport, we're looking for truck drivers, people. This is everybody. As well as agriculture and agri-food. The first category-based invitations to apply for permanent residency are expected to be sent out this summer. So, it'd be interesting to see what the receptivity is to that. And this is kind of, very, very targeted, kind of merit-based immigration, where what do we need? What roles are Canadians not filling? And how do we make sure that those are the kind of people with those skills that we are attracting to the country? It's kind of that, it's sort of that simple. With seeding wrapping up across parts of Manitoba, many Manitoba producers would now welcome a good rain, according to the latest weekly crop report, according to a story on GrainFox. Released on Tuesday, the report pegged the planting of spring cereals at about 95 to 99% complete, corn at 95%, soybeans at 90%, and canola at 80%. Adding that it is expected that all planting will be complete by the end of the week. We heard earlier this week Peter Johnson talking about how dry it was in Ontario. Well, it also is the case south of the border. Michigan crops are threatened by dry weather. A quote here from the Michigan Farm Bureau saying, "We are one of the driest Mays we have had on record." That's the same thing that Pete said. Now, what the Michigan Farm Bureau also says is over the last 100 years, so Pete put a 50 on it. Michigan Farm Bureau saying it may be the driest May in 100 years. Wow, that's not good for crops. They continue by saying, "My concerns right now are for some of the early planted crops. We need to get them up and out of the ground." U.S. spring wheat planting has essentially now caught up to the average pace following the second straight week of big gains in Minnesota and North Dakota, according to a report from GrainFox. Tuesday, USDA's crop progress report showed national spring wheat planting at 85% complete as of Sunday, way up from 64% a week earlier, and just 1 point below the 5-year average, so that is caught up. Last week at this time, an estimated 70% of the spring wheat crop was in the ground. Now, in states like Minnesota, where early field work was lagging the most because of wet, cold weather, planting reached 97% complete as of Sunday. So that is getting very much caught up. Russia's war on Ukraine is increasingly spilling into Russian territory. Not necessarily an ag news story, but something that we're following very closely. The governor of Russia's Belgorod region, I know I'm saying that wrong, which borders Ukraine, said 4 people were recently injured in a massive strike there. This is the latest in a series of strikes against Russian targets by Ukrainian forces. Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed the spate of attacks, saying Ukraine chose the path of intimidation and is provoking Russia to mirror actions. Meanwhile, Ukraine, with the help of its allies, is planning a peace summit that, of course, does not include Russia. Russia left out of that party. It'd be interesting to see how the war changes. If this is sort of the increasing trend, we see Ukraine try to push into Russian territory. That was not something that we thought of. Maybe some military strategists definitely did, but this is something that was not happening 6 months ago. And so it's sort of, maybe it's a little bit easier to be on the attack. Your attitude about this is different when you're on the attack in enemy territory versus having to defend your own territory. We'll see if how Russia reacts to all of this. Speaking of Russia, wheat in Russia is accumulating. Now, Sov Econ's Andrei Sizkov, great. I follow him on Twitter. He is. I enjoy his comments about the grain markets in that region. He said in a note that the firm says that as of May 1st, on-farm wheat stocks totaled 12 million metric tons, according to the government data. That's twice as high as the 5-year average. The key factor contributing to the accumulation of stocks was the record high crop of 2022. So is this a case of where record crops in 2022, but people are not that inclined to take Russian wheat at this point? Is that kind of the summation that we should be making from that? One would probably think so. And hey, is that going to change? Doesn't seem like it. The attitude on some of those sanctions and restrictions on buying Russian products doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It also shows you why Russia's been pushing back on some of this grain deal as well, trying to get some of these sanctions and things like that removed into the future. The Ford government, I should have hit on this earlier in the news. Remember this Bill 97 that Lindsay has been talking about? Well, that controversial proposal to allow up to 3 severances off an Ontario farm property is going to be walked back Now, that's according to a letter sent to Ontario farm groups by Municipal Affairs and Housing Minister Steve Clark. So the decision comes after several farm groups led by the UFA lobbied the government to drop the proposal in Bill 97 that would have been really detrimental to farmland preservation and rural infrastructure. In a statement, OFA President Peggy Breckfield said that a united coalition of farmers and agricultural leaders has spoken up with a single voice against legislation that would make it difficult or impossible for farmers to manage and expand their farm businesses in the future. The idea here was that you could basically create 3 acreages on a piece of land. And, the more that happens, the more difficult it is to, 1, grow your farm, and 2, operate a farming operation amongst all these residences. And at the same time, how are these 3 acreages solving the housing crisis in Ontario? They're not. Let's be honest. Now, should also note in the story on RealAgriculture.com that there are still outstanding issues with the bill, this Bill 97, including the extension of ministerial zoning orders that farm groups have concerns about. And the OFA is also committed to help find ways to support the provincial government's housing goals. And we look forward to actively engaging in that dialogue in the days and weeks ahead. So this would definitely be considered a win when you talk to Ontario farm groups, for sure. Now, on the economic side, we talked to Errol Anderson earlier about what's happening in the economic situation, but Federal Reserve officials have been leaning towards a more hawkish stance on monetary policy this week. So basically wanting to raise rates again. So that's happening with inflation being a key consideration. So Richmond Fed President Thomas Barkin stated that inflation appears to be more persistent than many had hoped for. He mentioned that while U.S. monetary policy is restrictive, consumer activity has not significantly slowed down. He expressed uncertainty about where interest rates should go in the future. And once again, one has to ask, how high do rates have to go before people to slow down? And maybe they are slowing down. It's just not showing up in some of this data yet. And I think that's kind of Errol's point there, is that there's other indicators besides some of the numbers that central banks are following. And the commodity prices, crude oil, copper as examples. Copper's always been known as an indicator of economic activity, and it's been dropping. So that tells you that demand is slowing. That tells you that maybe it's not the consumer shopping at Walmart isn't slowing yet, but there is slowing. And remember, when they raise rates, it's not instantaneous, the impacts. It takes months, like 6 months to 12 months, for that rate increase to actually really show its, take hold and show its full impacts. So are we overshooting at this point? That's what some people are arguing. But it seems like the smart money, the betting line in Vegas, so to speak, would be that the Federal Reserve is going to raise rates again. And a comment here, former Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers sees U.S. rates headed higher in the short term and U.S. taxes rising in the longer term. He's currently a Harvard University professor. He attributes this forecast to persistent inflation and growing government debt. Currently, the U.S. seems to be dealing with an underlying inflation rate of around 4.5 to 5, which is over twice the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. Canada in kind of a little bit of the same boat. If you have feedback on today's show, we'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio, and we'll, of course, chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.